Okay, so now that we have entities, or a new entity, what we want to do is we want to go in and add some fields to that entity. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on Travel Tracker. And so we have that trip column we created earlier. And so what we're going to do is use a big button up at the top called Add a Field. And so what we're going to do here is we're just going to kind of work through creating the different fields that I want to have associated with this entity for the solution we're going to build later. But keep in mind that, while I like to do as many up front as I can, this is all very manageable, right? So if we come back in later, we're halfway through our solution, right? Man, I really wish I had a field to track X or Y. It's real easy to add these later. So I like to preload the ones I know I'm going to use, but definitely understand you can come back and do this as you go. All right, so the first one I'm going to do is we're just going to have a simple one that is a destination. And we're going to make the data type for this, we're going to use text. Now, before we do that, though, I want to kind of look at all the different data types we have here. And so we got text, we got emails, we got URLs, we got different types of numbers and time zones, dates and times, a bunch of currency, option set. There's a lot of different data types here. And the reason I want to make sure you're exposed to those is because as you get better with this and you start to understand, there's a lot of upsides to getting this right? We could make them all text and just kind of deal with it. But when we do model-driven apps later, based on the column types here, we're going to see different formatting and different display options based on what we choose. So for example, if you choose and make your column an email because it is an email address, that's going to be an email clickable link later. So make sure you put in at least a little bit of thought in your data type. And as we go through here, we're going to talk about some of these more common used ones, but I just wanted you to put that in your head as you start to look at this. But for me, for destination, we're just going to choose text. It's not required. It is searchable. We're not going to do calculated or roll-ups yet. And then if we look at like advanced options, we've got like some descriptions and things like that we could put in. So different pieces of normal information to expect when you're trying to create a field. So we'll say done. And so then now we've got our destination. Let's make another one. And so we'll say add a field. We're going to make one called billable. And so for billable for me, this data type, I wanted this to be a simple, yes, no type of thing. So I'm going to go down here, and so all the way at the bottom is a nice little two options. And look at this, Power Apps, Canvas, CDS already knows that, by default, two options is yes, no. Now we could edit these, customize it, but yes, no is exactly what I wanted, so this is perfect. So we're going to say done. Just another one of those chances to say thank you, common data model. And then what we'll also do, we'll add one more here, is we'll say transportation. And so in transportation, I can't spell, what we're going to do is we're going to do a data type, and we're going to go all the way to the bottom, and we're going to check out option set. And so option set is going to let us go in and create a set of choices, right? So this is just going to be a choice column, because I want the people to be able to choose, do they travel by car, by plane, or by boat? I don't know why boats, but it might have been an option for them. So I want to make that part of my option set. So I'm going to hit the drop down here. And so you can once again see that in the list here is all of the different predefined option sets that came from the common data model. And so you can go through here and maybe what you need is already in this list. If so, then absolutely take advantage of it. For me, it is not. That's okay. I'm going to do a new option set. And so then over here, so all right, what do you want to call this? I'm going to call this transportation options. That'll be what I name my option set, because I'm very creative at names. I'm going to make sure that the name here is updated also. And so then I can start putting in the options. So we've got car, we've got boat, we've got plane. And so now that we've got those in here, right, we've populated them out, well, it looks good. I want to click view more though for just 1 second. And so once again, we can add a description, which would be more complete. But also we have this thing between global option sets and local option sets. So global option sets are available throughout your CDS instance. Local option sets are going to be tied only to the entity and the fields where you're using it here. So just kind of keep that in mind. This would, typically speaking, like 99.9% of the time, you're going to use global option set. You'd only use local option set if you had a very specific use case where even showing people, letting them see the options could cause data leakage or something like that. It'd be a security issue. So don't overthink this. If you're not certain otherwise, you're always going to want to use the default of global option set. So I'll just say view less. So we'll say save. And so then you can see, so our transportation column is using the transportation options. We could do a default value. I always tell people not to use a default value unless it's truly the default, more than 80% of the time, because I've found with people they like to use the default value even if they don't really mean it because people don't want to click it. So only set a default value if you want to, or if you're knowing that's truly going to be the default most of the time. So that all looks good. We'll click done. And so I think before we continue on, let's save this entity, right? Because we don't want to lose any of that work. And so saving the entity is now going to take those fields and actually push them in. Up until this point, those three that were over there in bold, they were not actually in the data set. All right, so then I think that's, we have a few more here to create, but we want to do those a little bit different. So we're going to explore some new options. So I'll see you in the next video.